for all of Shelley Bar Blues. That right, then together on C and E, then thumb, left, left, left. And that left hand, you want to treat it like one of those melodies that you're really thinking about how you're playing each of these notes. Make sure you're using the same fingering that really works for you. And you got your together right thumb, and you might just stay in that one bar until you get the real feel of it in your body. I quite like just playing that last thumb here, really short, sort of floating off from it. And as a matter of fact, if you get the hang of that and you're playing your bar blues fairly easily, then you might want to do a little extra thing, and that is playing 3 of those thumbs in between the left hand notes, so it looks like this. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Thumb, thumb, thumb. Once you get a hang of that, it's a nice little extra thing to put in, or you can leave it out if Shelley Bar Blues is already giving you enough of a challenge. We looked at, with Shelley Bar Blues, at the rests in there also. So far we have learned that you have whole notes and half notes and quarter notes and eighth notes and 16th notes, and each of those values also have the rest version. So we looked a little bit about how most songs start off with telling you what the beat in the bar is, and an easy way to understand it is by taking the top note and going count to 4, in this case using quarter notes. You can see those quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them in the bar, and every bar is a little bit like a Sudoku, meaning that the value of each bar in both the left and the right, or both the bass and the treble staves, always add up to the same value. In this case, count to 4 using quarter notes, or right above there in the second bar, you see an eighth note and a half note and another eighth note, but just before that is a funny looking thing, and it is a rest, and it is the quarter note rest. That makes sense. If you have 2 eighth notes and a half note, which is another 4 eighth notes, so we've got 6 eighth notes, then we need another 2 eighth notes, which is a quarter notes rest, to create that Sudoku feel that it all adds up to count to 4 quarter notes. So there, just like there is a whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16th notes, we have a whole note rest, a half note rest, a quarter note rest, an eighth note rest, and a 16th note rest. And the quarter note rest is the easiest to recognize. It's also the one that is nice to work with because you can go twice as fast or twice as slow quite easily. And it's the one that looks a bit like the gas flame. The half and the whole look very similar. The whole, though, is hanging off the line, so it is sort of ready to go to sleep like a bat hanging in a cave. It's totally done for the day. But the half note, you can fit 2 half note rests in a bar. They look more like a top hat, like when you put your top hat on for going out. So whole note is hanging off the line, half note is still ready to go, sitting on top of the third line. That's your half note rest, whole note rest, half note rest. Quarter note rest is the one that looks like a gas flame. You'll see an eighth note rest in the 4th bar right at the end. We got a eighth note, a half note, a quarter note rest, and an eighth note rest. It's just to remind you of the little beam that we see above the eighth notes. We now have a little sort of tiny little, like a sideways comma thing with a line coming off it, and that's your eighth note rest. That makes sense in that fourth bar because we got an eighth note and a half note and quarter note rest. So we just need another eighth note value in Shelley Bar Blues, and there it is, an eighth note rest. There is also such a thing as a 16th note rest. It looks just like the eighth note, but instead of one laying on its sides comma, it's got two laying on its sides comma. So you can see that nicely in the handout. And well worth being mindful of your rests and looking at your music nowadays and paying heed to what these rests mean and feeling them and making sure you don't hold a note when it's rested unless you feel yourself like interpreting it differently. In the meantime, first time around, second time around, drop your left hand and take your pinky down to get that F minor feel. We get that. Then last week we learned this little melody which went 3, 5, 1, 2. Move your hand to E minor, finger 1, 3, 5. And the left hand, right there at the bottom of the last page, we did that 5 to 1, 2, 1. This week we're moving our whole body. You want to roll onto your hip or shift along with your bottom to go to do exactly the same, but this time we put our thumb up here and we put our left hand on middle C. This time we do 1, 3, 5, 4 with our fingers. There it is, high E. Enjoy.